Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming. Yeah, it's okay. I'm a high fiver. I'm a waver. I don't know. I think we think the Martians would do that, but we don't know what Martians actually look like. A lot of people don't think they exist, especially a lot of people in my country, but they think the world is 6,000 years old because they're crazy. Sorry. We have a lot of crazy, but like we embrace our racism in the U.S. Like it's like there's like a new badge of honor. Like it's coming back. Like Sarah Palin, Michelle Bachmann, Rick Perry. Like everyone's like dumber than the next. And it's like, I want to run for president. Why? Because I don't know shit about anything. Excuse my language, I swear a little bit. I'm going to keep it down. There's a little girl over there. Okay. I'm going to bleep those out. And there's this feeling of, and this is another thing, right? You know, I live in a country, you guys have national health care. We don't. We have $1 trillion giveaway to the insurance companies and big pharma that's coming up. But you know, when some people say, well, you know, I talk about Palestine. I'm like, well, I could talk about healthcare till I was blue in the face in the United States. It doesn't actually get you a single payer healthcare plan that's feasible and equitable for all of society, right? And so the most important thing that I always stress at shows is that we need to be part of the process and not just the 15 spokesmen or academics or, you know, I do a lot of like big shows in the US and in London, and sometimes people think that like being a superstar or walking after somebody that we really respect is the way to go, when in reality it's the BDS activists, it's the people working on the Veolia campaign, it's the people doing the de-shelving campaigns and the flash mobs and the mock checkpoints and doing the gritty work within society that might not get the medals, might not get the trophies, or might not get the action, the accolades, but they are the ones shifting society. They are the ones making the difference. It's never, you know, somebody once said to me, do you want to be the next Edward Said? And I said, no, I mean, I hope to one day be, you know, 1,000 as brilliant and inspire the next 10,000, you know, because that's what it has to be about. It has to be about us. So thank you guys for coming out, and I know the group has been active for a long time, and it's really nice to see. I mean, I'm going to 23 different spots throughout the UK, throughout England, and there's so many different voices and peoples and communities coming out, not just for Palestine, but for social justice, like really being ingrained in the foundation of society and trying to, I mean, I know cuts are hitting everybody really hard. We have the Occupy movement throughout the US, the richest country in the world, now the empire. You have kids that have student debt coming out of every pore and don't know what the hell to do about it. And so when we look at the war in Afghanistan, we look at $3.1 billion a year in aid to Israel. They are connected to the US-Mexico border and Obama kicking out 400,000 people a year, and Guantanamo not closing down, and Tony Blair's going into Iraq, and the drone bombing of six different countries. And unfortunately, the UK is very complicit in all of these things because you just do whatever America says. And that's dumb. We're going down a shitty path, so stop following us.
And there's drone research right here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you guys have a lot of like the most egregious companies, but like there was a statistic that came out that Mark Gonzalez, who's a brilliant poet, I know, he posted a tweet today, and it was something like the U.S. spends $8.1 billion a year on school lunches and just signed on to a drone project that cost $8.8 billion. So now we're spending more on a drone project than we are on food for our youth. So this next poem, I'm actually going to do this, is called Iraq. It's very hard for me to do any set without talking about Iraq and Afghanistan, because I live in a country that acts like these wars don't exist anymore. You know, unless there's 1,000 coffin boxes coming home tomorrow, they don't give a shit if 1 million Iraqis die. And there's been this systematic dehumanization of the Arab and Muslim male inside of the United States post 9/11. Before that, it was the black and Latino male, and that still happens. And it's the way that we can say that you're different, that you're over there. So when we drone bomb somebody in Afghanistan or kill a family or bomb a wedding, it's like, you're insurgents, you know, you're bad people, you were friends with insurgents, you shouldn't have been there. I think we dropped a leaflet like last week, why didn't you get that? And you got the cluster bomb instead. You know, there's all this kind of dehumanization of a people, and it makes it so much easier. With the prisoners that were just released in Palestine, we never heard one of their names. There's still more than 6,000 prisoners living inside of Israeli prisons, inside of Israeli dungeons, more than 700,000 since 1967, and the only name we ever heard was an occupation soldier. So this is called Iraq, and I was having a conversation with this guy. Started off okay, you know, because I like to talk. I'm a talker, I'm Gabby. I could probably talk to that wall for an hour after you guys leave, because that's just what I do. And so he was like, he was Arab American. So I was like, awesome, 1 for 1. Yes, I do a lot of high fives. 1 for 1. I'm like, this can't be going bad. He's Arab, I'm Arab. Okay. And he was like, we need to end the war in Iraq. I was like, oh, number 2. Yeah, we do. And then he's like, because it costs us too much money. And I was like, no. We need to end the war in Iraq because killing 1 million people isn't nice. Displacing 5.5 million is even less cool, and dropping depleted uranium on civilian populations is going to give everybody cancer. Okay, so I wrote this poem, Iraq, and I hope it's not like anybody you know, because if you do, they're dumb. You shouldn't call people dumb, especially you guys. Don't ever call anybody dumb. But if you do, you should back it up with facts. I'm just kidding. You're like, I'm leaving this event. Iraq? Alright, maybe a little water. Iraq has a $79 billion surplus. We've spent more than $1 trillion on this war. More than 4,000 of our troops have died. God knows how many are coming back limbless. Others with post-traumatic stress disorder. This is not making us safer. This is not within our interests. This is what he says to me. An Arab American, an American Arab, an American who happens to be Arab. I look back at him. I'm not some mainstream CNN producer, and 3 Iraqis have died since our conversation started. I'm not an American. I'm a human being. I don't write poems about Kevlar vests or USO tours, and don't get me wrong, I support the troops, the ones in Iraq, Palestine, Afghanistan, Northern Ireland, South Africa, and Birmingham, and all of their bullets fit in guns. They've written poetry, and music, and literature an oppressor could never dream of. I do. I feel bad that I can't afford my new iPhone, but I've yet to hear you utter that more than 1 million Iraqis have been slaughtered in this war. That their $79 billion surplus can't get them electricity or stability, that the surge has failed. Baghdad has been cleansed of Sunnis, and more than 5 million have been made refugees. I'm sorry that you can't afford your cross-country road trip because gas costs too much money, and the US dollar can't get you past Go and Monopoly. We wrap ourselves around 50 stars and lapel pins while civilians and occupied nations die because of our policy. If that makes me anti-American, hood me, rip me from my home, and waterboard me in a Guantanamo prison, I'm not looking for the American dream or your silly notion of exceptionalism. You think because you love a country, it excuses jingoism. Your so-called rights and interests matter more than the countless deaths of others, and you know what? I'm not going to call you a sellout or Arab Uncle Tom. I'm going to call you what you are, a crappy human being, one that tried to write and invoke civil movements, all while taking a step backwards. Yes, Iraq has cost us $1 trillion, but there's no currency to replace your thirst for hegemony. I'm not an American, I'm a human being. If that's so hard for you to stomach, maybe you should grab a plane ticket with your frequent flyer miles and move the hell out of my country.